have given a name to my pain. The Batman.
Always waiting for some Batman to save you.
It's simple. We kill the Bat of Gotham. You don't really think you'll win, do you? I'm Batman.
Hey now. I had to do a good hey now this morning, Rick. I haven't been up to...
Hey now.
My hey nows haven't been all that awesome, so I have actually listened to more Howard Stern this week, and I went back and watched the clip, the Hey Now clip from Larry Sanders' show. So anyway, hey now, you are listening to episode 93 of the Batman on Film podcast. BOF is the sponsor, as well as a proud member of the Batman Podcast Network. Check out all the shows at batmanpodcastnetwork.com. I am the host of this here little old podcast, as well as the founder and editor-in-chief of Batman on Film, Bill Jet Ramey. With me today is my fellow Texan, representing North Texas and Plano, and straight from Mesquite, Texas. Born, bred, and raised, right?
Born, bred, and raised, lived there until 1994. Haven't lived there since.
Yes.
But you like to still talk about it, and I've lived away from it longer than I've lived away from there longer than I lived there. That's where I grew up.
I understand. I'm very...
Nothing against Mesquite, the family and friends that still live there. I'm just saying I just don't live there anymore.
I'm very geographical and history minded, so I love bringing up where people are from and love all that stuff.
If you stand on my parents' my parents are in the same house. If you stand on their roof, you can see the Dallas skyline as clear as day. I mean, the proximity to downtown is 15 minutes. It's its own weird little bubble. It's a very bizarre suburb because it doesn't feel like it's only 15 minutes from downtown Dallas. It feels like it's 3 hours from it.
You feel like you're like in Tyler Longview area more than major metropolitan city. And you are, I was about to introduce you. You are whom, sir?
Rick Shew.
All right. So, actually, this will be the second of 2 podcasts are dropping this weekend on Batman on Film. If you haven't listened yet, the Batman on Films, Batman on Films, Batman Returns movie commentary is now up for your listening pleasure. So fire up the Betamax, VHS, DVD, whatever way you're going to watch Batman Returns, and watch it along with Ryan Haas, Peter Vera, Chris Clow, and the man on the other end of this microphone.
Yes, you have to listen to my commentary. And here's the thing about commentaries. Look, if these things are in your wheelhouse, that's great. They're not really my thing. And I did it just to do it because Ryan and Justin are very passionate about these, and they did a great job with Batman 89. And to be quite honest with you, Justin could not make it to Batman Returns. It was sort of a last-minute thing that he had to cancel, and Ryan really wanted to have another person on the panel, and we reached out to a couple of BOF contributors that just couldn't do it. I said, okay, here, I'll do it with you, man. You know, he had Chris Clow and Peter on, and they're great. So it's not like he needed some help with those guys. It was just, he just wanted 4 people. So, which does make sense when you listen to a commentary. More people kind of bouncing off one another is fun. So I sat down to do it, and, will I do another one of these? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, it depends if these guys need help. It's not something I'm necessarily going to volunteer for, but I will say I enjoy doing it even if it's the last time I ever do them. But if these things are not in your wheelhouse, this is not going to change your mind. But if they are, I think it's really great. So if you're into commentaries, fire up Batman Returns, watch it with us, and I think you're going to really enjoy it. I mean, it's a lot of fun. I can't stand the movie, but when things were happening that I liked, I certainly talked about that as well. I didn't just shit on the movie for 2 hours.
Yeah, you did. I got up at like frickin' 4:30 this morning, and I finished the edit that Ryan sent over me, the main track, and I edited everything together and posted it. And I listened to it. I jumped around because it's 2 hours and 40 minutes. So, but there's some good stuff in there. It really was, and some good insight.
Yeah, there's actually some very good insight in it. It's a lot of fun because it just is. There's a good mix of opinions of the film, and it's fun to listen to. Chris Clow is great, and Peter made his debut.
Yeah, they were good
as an actual online personality, and I thought he was a lot of fun. It was funny because Peter loves the movie, and throughout the film, right, I would just kind of troll him on text. And as he was talking, as he's talking about how much he liked something, I would just be texting him going, "Man, this movie sucks." And I was just trying to shake him up. I mean, it was like a little brotherhood. It was fun.
Yeah,
I hope all that stuff comes out in the commentary, because behind the scenes we were just trolling each other on text and stuff. It was a lot of fun.
I think I'm with you. It's not really my thing to do these commentaries, but I wouldn't mind doing one. If we do Batman Forever, I wouldn't mind doing that, because I am a fan of Batman Forever. You are not a fan of Batman Forever, so that might be.
Here's the thing on Batman Forever. There are, in a lot of ways, Batman Forever and BVS are very similar to me in terms of how I like them. Was the best way to phrase that. In other words, they're obviously very different styles of films, and overall aesthetic could not be more extreme from one to the other. But in terms of, if I just would to rate them, they're about on the same page in terms I can enjoy them and watch them both, and there's certain things about both films I like. But at the end of the day, both BVS and Batman Forever to me are two films that had the potential for greatness that just fall short in so many categories that it just never comes together as a film for me, and they're both pretty forgettable.
Returns is more to me. Returns and Batman Returns and BVS to me, I feel similar in similar ways about when you said you feel similar to Forever and BVS. So because I just don't like either of them.
Batman Forever and BVS are both like C's, maybe C pluses to me, because I'm a letter grade guy. Batman Returns, man, it's hard for that not to be an F. That movie's so ridiculous, but and then if it's not ridiculous, it's gross. But what keeps that film alive for me is Michelle Pfeiffer, and it's also a shame because I love the Penguin and I love Danny DeVito, and that's the part that also really irks me, is that I can't enjoy Danny DeVito as the Penguin as I should be able to. I wouldn't have a problem if they recast him in a new universe to play him again, to play him properly, and not to be a fish sewer black goose spoon.
All right. We're gonna go off on a tangent
and there's a little sample of the commentary.
Yeah, so if you want to listen to that, hear more of Rick bash on Batman Returns, but it's a good mix of people on there. Peter loves it. Chris Clow is not a fan of it, but I don't think he's a flat-out hater of it. He made some really good points that I agree with in regards to the film. And then Ryan likes it for nostalgia reasons, because I believe it was the first Batman film he saw in the theater. So anyway, let me direct you that way. And let's talk about some other stuff that came up. We really weren't planning on doing this, and then we were, and then we weren't, and then we said, hell, we'll just knock it out real quick Sunday morning. But few things. I guess the main thing we'll get to is the Vulture article about the future of DC on film. And, we found out also that Warner Brothers never officially called their DC universe, cinematic universe, the DCEU. Some dude at Entertainment Weekly made it up as a joke. So I'm like, it kind of not made me happy, kind of pissed me off in a way, because I'm like, okay, Warner Brothers, why didn't you just, you could come up with a name, so everyone has been calling it DCEU. And I always thought it was stupid, DC Extended Universe, because I was calling it the DC Cinematic Universe before. So I've coined a new one, Rick, We're going to call it here on Batman on Film, Ladcoff. Ladcof. Live action DC on film. And until someone tells me otherwise, that's what we're going to call it. So, Ladcoff.
Ladcoff. Has a nice ring to it.
Yes.
Ladcoff.
Yes. It's got a little, it's kind of Russian sounding a little bit, but whatever. Yeah. Vladimir Ladcoff.
Okay. I like it.
Okay. All right.
My fellow comrade. I like it.
Ladcoff is 2 syllables as opposed to Ladcof. So, whatever. Any thoughts on that? I mean, it's petty, but any thoughts on them not actually say, no, what we really call this is this, or not even naming the damn thing, you know?
And how did you obtain that information? What was the source for that?
The Vulture the author of the Vulture article, that would be Andrew Reisman. I believe I'm pronouncing that gentleman's name correctly. If not, I apologize. And I'm actually efforting him. I'm having conversation with him to get him on the podcast to talk about his article, which is fantastic. He tweeted it out in his research. He found out that they never called it that, and they thought it was funny, and never corrected anybody. And that some dude at Entertainment Weekly, when he wrote an article, I don't know, 2 years ago or however long it's been around, used that just made it up in his article as a joke. So
interesting. It's funny how those things just kind of take on a life of their own, isn't it?
Yeah, I hated calling it that, but I did because I thought, well, that's what they're calling. No one ever corrected anyone. Now, that's kind of bullshit, in my opinion. You know, whatever. There's nothing to get worked up about. But anyway, speaking of Mr. Reisman and his article on Vulture, it is titled, DC says it's downplaying its cinematic universe. And this article dropped on Friday, September 29th. And it's also part of a much larger, much longer expose of what is going on with DC, or Ladcoff, DC on film in the future, post Justice League. And I'll start by reading you a pretty telling quote from Miss Diane Nelson, who is one of the executives in charge of DC Entertainment, DC on Film, whatever. So,
and let's say this again before you say the quote. This is a quote from a Warner Brothers executive.
This is a quote from Diane Nelson, who is basically in charge of DC on Film, DC Entertainment. And
okay,
here we go. And I want to get your reaction.
I want to make sure that's clear.
Yes, this is a quote. This is not me paraphrasing. She said in the article, "Our intention, certainly moving forward, is using the continuity to help make sure nothing is diverging in a way that doesn't make sense. But there's no insistence upon an overall storyline or interconnectivity in that universe. Moving forward, you'll see the DC movie universe being a universe, but one that comes from the heart of the filmmaker who is creating them."
Okay. Now let's tie that quote in, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Tell me if you think this is a good idea. Why don't we mention Jeff Johns' tweet as well, and then let's talk about those together. I think that kind of makes sense, don't you?
Well,
Jeff Johns. Yeah. So Jeff Johns.
Well, set it up though. He was someone was like, but please don't kill the universe when it just started, please. And I'm exaggerating,
right?
But
there's a Twitter handler, and it just said, "Jeff Johns' cinematic universe has only begun, and you are already pulling the rug out from under it. Please keep the universe connected." Okay, obviously a fan of the interconnected universe. Nothing wrong with that. Good for him. Jeff Johns replied to this gentleman and said it 100% is, and has a picture of a variety of different characters from DC Justice League. Okay, so that's great. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, the Vulture article, and people like you and I that's been reporting this for a long time, and this Vulture article certainly echoes everything that we've been saying and what we've reported, is now saying this is vindication to them, that is all BS. Okay, so with that in mind, let's read that quote one more time, Bill, from the executive at Warner Brothers. Okay.
"Our intention, certainly moving forward, is using the continuity to help make sure nothing is diverging in a way that doesn't make sense. but there's no insistence upon an overall storyline or interconnectivity in that universe. Moving forward, you'll see the DC movie universe being a universe, but one that comes from the heart of the filmmaker who is creating them. Them meaning individual DC movies.
And then I want to read a tweet from our own Justin Kowalski, who couldn't join us this morning.
Yes, Justin and Ryan couldn't make it this morning, so
yeah, they could not make it this morning.
They're with us in spirit.
Justin shared the Jeff Johns tweet, and he just put, "Come on, people, read the articles, not the headline." And then I tweeted, pat myself on the back here, "Fans, nobody has ever said the DCEU would not be quote-unquote connected. The question is how. Don't let semantics rule the day and enjoy the ride." Okay, so tying all this in together, it sounds like a lot, but really it's one point that we're making here, is that what this article is saying from WB and what we've reported for a long time, obviously they're not disbanding the universe in a sense of they're just rebooting and starting over and none of this is connected.
Yeah.
First of all, anyone that would think that, you would have to say, are you not aware that they're shooting a Wonder Woman sequel with Gal? Jason Momoa is playing Aquaman in an Aquaman standalone film, right? These are already things that are in production, or at least pre-production.
I think
Aquaman's in production.
I think Aquaman wrapped filming. I'm pretty sure. But so it's coming out.
So obviously they're not just starting from scratch and rebranding and rebooting. Obviously, no one's ever said that. If someone has ever said that, that person was wrong, ill-informed, and didn't even look at the obvious that cast members from this current universe are already moving forward. What this is saying, and Bill, correct me if I'm wrong here, but this is what we have known and what we've reported from our sources for the last 5 or 6 months, is that ever since the response of BVS and leading up to, unfortunately, the I want to be PC here and delicate. The not so cohesive plans of Justice League unfolding in the way they thought it would. Mm-hmm. Okay, a lot of behind the scenes things and shuffling around and more so. Yes, every film has some reshoots and rewrites, no doubt about it. But this is a whole different level of things that have taken place with this film. Not to say other films haven't had the same headache and haven't prevailed. They certainly have. Shawshank Redemption was a nightmare of a shoot, and you would never know it watching that masterpiece. So I always like to point that out. But is that they have said, look, as we move forward with these films, we're going to let directors do their own thing, let these people stay in their own confinement, and we're not going to basically hit you over the head with cameos. We're not just leading everything up to Justice League 2. The Matt Reeves Batman super standalone film is not going to have a bunch of scenes with Henry Cavill Superman and Batman and Aquaman. The Wonder Woman sequel is not going to have Wonder Woman and Batman, running around and saving the day together.
Hell, they won't even they won't even be emailing each other in the sequel.
No, that's the point. Is that if they decide to bring them back in some capacity, maybe they will do a Justice League 2 down the road. Yeah. I'm not saying that that's off the table. They very well might. But it's not. But what could also just as easily happen is that a Justice League 2 never happens, and you really probably may never even see these guys on screen together again. Basically, at the end of the day, what they're saying is that this is not going to be Marvel. We're not doing the Avengers and Tony Stark making cameos in every film, including Spider-Man: Homecoming, obviously, Hulk and Thor, all the things that you go see a Marvel film, they're all in there together. At least 2 or 3 characters are popping up in Ant-Man and Spider-Man: Homecoming, in the Iron Man sequels and Thor, whatever, and that's not going to be the case with this, and that is significant because that is not what the original plan was. When they made BVS leading the Justice League, it was supposed to be the DC version of what Marvel is doing, and that has changed, and that is the point, is that is not what it's going to be. So yeah, you can say it's connected, and that's fine, and maybe down the road of your cup of tea is to have these guys on screen together. I mean, for you, I hope you get it again. Just don't be surprised if you don't, because these standalone films are going to be their own thing, an own vision by a director. And don't be surprised if the Batman standalone film with Matt Reeves is a prequel to all of it.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's the best of both worlds to me, because
absolutely,
yeah, you're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You don't want to get rid of Gal Gadot, because frankly, she's the best thing going about DC on film right now.
Look, you and I have a little bit difference of opinion on BVS. I actually like it more than you do. I don't love it, and it has a lot of problems. Okay, but I like it enough to where I don't hate it.
Yes, you do. You're getting
no. It should be. Well, I don't watch it.
Yeah,
I stopped watching it because every time I watched it, it actually got worse, and quite frankly, a lot of it was.
Yeah, and I can't say, and I'll be honest, I can't say I hate it, but I really, really don't like it, and I just won't watch it. I don't have any desire to watch it again, and listen, right. Like you, the more I watch it, the less I like it, and I just, combine that with I don't want to watch it. That's fine by me. Go ahead.
I just get pissed off because I think it was such a wasted opportunity. And as I love these characters, you get passionate about that kind of stuff. Yeah. You get passionate about people out there that get mad at people like us not liking those films and saying something negative because you're passionate about it. We get it. We actually share that passion. The difference is my passion is, I love these characters as much as you do. That's why this film makes me angry. But my point is that we have never, at whatever level of disdain or lukewarmness to BVS or even Suicide Squad that we've had, because we all love Man of Steel and Wonder Woman, is that we've never wanted these cast members not to return ever. So that's the best gift that Snyder gave us in terms of the DCU was the cast.
Yeah, he cast this damn thing. He cast extremely well.
The whole thing.
I haven't seen Ezra Miller except for the clips and the trailers. I think that was it's an unconventional decision, but I'm not going, oh man, that sucks. But you think about Momoa, I think he's gonna be awesome as Aquaman, and
yeah, dude. Cavill's perfect as Superman.
Cavill is, yes, and then don't get me even started on that, because he needs a Superman film that's awesome.
And if you love Superman, and you love Superman and you love Cavill as Superman, I just, that's where I have a hard time understanding the justification of your love for BVS, because Superman was robbed and Cavill was robbed. Okay, that's just my view on that. But my point is, we'll get off BVS because we'll get off, and then this will turn into a BVS shit show, and then we'll give Twitter. We'll give the Twitterverse a reason to hate us.
Listen, it's relative to this story, because that's when everything began to change. This direction started then. The response to that, and in fact, I'll say it started before the film was even out. I knew something was up with that film before I saw it, and I've told this story before. I went to L.A. to the press junket, and
wait, which film specifically are you talking about?
BVS.
Okay, BVS. Okay, go ahead.
And I had never seen analness over a film, a DC film that I've been able to cover as press before, and that's even including Man of Steel. That's the Nolan trilogy. The press screening did not include a 1+ or +1, which means I couldn't bring announcer Rachel with me, and she had come with me to Man of Steel and
Dark Knight Rises.
All of it. And I had to sign an NDA before I saw the movie, and then my review was embargoed till like 2 days before the movie came out. I said something is up. I knew right then something was up, and so that tells me they knew they had a divisive film at best on their hands, and it played out. By the way, look,
For anybody out there that says that BVS is a masterpiece of cinema, that is your opinion, and you're entitled to it, and it's art, and so that film is a piece of art. It's a beautiful film from an artistic standpoint. What we're saying is the empirical data, the facts on the ground. That film is not well received. It just isn't by any measure, by critics, by fan response, nothing. Now, fandom and hardcore DC Snyder fans love it. That's great. I'm glad you guys do, but we're talking about just the facts, not what our opinion is. The film very much underperformed.
Yeah,
it did not even hit 900,000, and I know that bar is set pretty high now because the Nolan films hit $1 billion, and then the numbers that some of the Marvel films are doing, what expectations were. But guys, it's Batman and Superman together. That thing should have been a slam dunk
with a extended cameo by Wonder Woman.
Easy. And in addition to that,
I mean, I would argue, Rick, that film just in itself should have went over $1 billion worldwide, even more so than Justice League, because in the title, Batman, Superman, in the flipping title.
Right, I know, and Batman was the marquee too, which was step one in them pushing Cavill's Superman aside. I might add that was supposed to be a Man of Steel sequel, and he gets second.
Oh, and then that's where
that was intended. That's intentional, by the way.
Yeah, right? and that's where the monkey wrench got thrown into the whole effing thing was right there, and then I can go back to that. That's where this steamroll, snowballing, whatever term you want to use of a shitstorm started right then. And
Deadpool did more domestically than Batman, Superman in North America.
You know what? You can drop a mic on that. We've said that before, but I mean
that's shocking. It's Deadpool, an ambiguous. Before that film came out, he had more of a cult following, and it was a rated R movie on top of that, and it did more domestically than Batman vs Superman. So great. If you love it, it's a masterpiece. No one's saying you're wrong. Bless you for that. Watch it till the cows come home. Enjoy it. I'm glad you do. It is a piece of art. I will never deny that. It's a beautiful piece of art. It's a mess of a film, but it's a beautiful piece of art. Those are not necessarily mutually inclusive. Now, but our point is this. If Batman v Superman worked the way that they wanted it to work, and let's just set aside the $1 billion, what was actually more detrimental to that film from the studio executives wasn't so much that it didn't hit $1 billion, although that was obviously significant. Their issue was the critical backlash of that film.
The critical backlash and the audience reaction. And I'm not talking about...
The audience reaction.
And hell, Rick, fans were split. Fans are split on that film.
Oh no, of course they are.
Yeah.
There is. If you're just living Twitterverse, you would think that everybody loves the film. And I'm not saying those again. I'm not saying those people don't. I'm not saying they shouldn't. What I'm saying is that does not represent the reality of how that film was perceived by the studio. So, but if that film worked in the way they wanted it to, what I'm telling you is that every film that happened afterwards would be, it would all be tied in much more specifically. You would have the cameos. You would have everything leading up to Justice League 2. You would have all of that stuff just like you do in Marvel. What Vulture's saying, what we've been saying, and what all this confirms is that is now not the case. Now they're going, wait, tap the brakes. Okay, we have this universe. What works? You know what works? The casting. Everybody loves these actors and these roles, so we don't want to mess with that. We don't want to have to start over and reinvent the wheel. What's not working is this interconnected universe. I don't believe, and I hope I'm proven wrong by this, I don't believe that the studio's all that excited about Justice League from everything that I know about it. I think they want to get it out. Yeah. And hope it just does okay and get it out of the way and move on. And maybe everybody will be...
Just don't be a disaster. Don't be a disaster.
And you know what, Bill? And no one will ever pick up on you and I saying this. Everybody may be pleasantly surprised by this. It could happen. I'm not saying that it won't. What I'm saying is that we are aware of a lot of things that are going on, and 90% of it we don't even talk about or write about because we can't. So especially you know 10,000 times more stuff about it than I do. Now, my point is this, though, is that if it worked, like I said, the universe would be different. So what they said is, okay, well, so what's working? All right, the cast. So let's keep that. What's not working is this interconnected universe that just isn't clicking. All right, we'll get Justice League out. It's already in pre-production. Let's finish it. Let's make the best we can. And then let's slow down and let's let directors take these characters and not hit people over the head with cameos. Don't have to worry about referencing anything.
Easter eggs, winks and nods.
Lex popping up in a Wonder Woman film. All that, gone.
So essentially, yes, this DC cinematic universe, whatever in the hell it's called, exist. They're in the same world, but the films themselves will be self-contained. They will be their own thing. They will not be used as commercials or setups for future films, and they sure as hell aren't setting up a Justice League 2. That's not even on the horizon. In fact, there was a Justice League 2. That was part of the fallout from BVS, is that the 2-part Justice League film was cut to one film, and and there's and it's been is a shitstorm. Is that too strong of a phrase to use, Rick? A shitstorm of a production since before even one frame of film was in the can.
Right.
It's and just I'm not going to rehash all the changes. I mean, everyone knows. Look. Everyone knows what they've got. It's 2 flipping directors that you've had. Dadgum, the composer changed, and people's scenes have been cut, and the whole 9 yards. Just bottom line is, the film we're going to get in November, and a month and a half now, is not the film that was originally intended, and it goes along with the fact that what they planned post Justice League is not what was originally planned when they decided to hijack Man of Steel sequel and make it BVS so they could get to Justice League yesterday.
And this film, the way the reality of it, right? It's a hybrid film of 2 directors. It's going to obviously have a lot more Snyder in it than Joss. But if I just was pulling kind of a number, and it's an educated number, by the way, but this is a 35% Joss Whedon film. Is that, what do you think, Bill? Probably about accurate?
I wouldn't argue against it, but I believe it's more. I mean, I think it's. Well, be that as it may. Let's not get on that. It is what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah, because I know you know things I don't, but that's just my.
It is what it is, dude. I think Affleck said it the best, and you parroted him right there. It's a interesting mix of 2 directors or whatever. That's a great analysis.
Right. But it's given fandoms, fandom, kind of a way out on this. It's sort of a win-win for them. If, the ones that are very loyal to Snyder, and I appreciate their passion for that. I just wish they would control it a little better and be more reasonable, but, that's okay. But they, and if they love the film, they're going to praise Snyder for it, and if they end up not liking it, they're going to say Josh ruined it. And that's just going to be the reality of the situation. And quite frankly, it's probably going to be that way with critics. And I'm not saying that's fair or unfair to Joss or Zach. I'm not necessarily giving my opinion on that. I have my own. I'm just saying that's going to be the reality of the situation. If it's good, then Zach's probably going to get a lot of credit for that. If it's bad, then people are going to say Joss ruined it. That's my view on how that's probably going to unfold. I used to think it was going to be kind of the other way around.
Well, I think it depends on who you are.
Yeah, it depends on who you are. Yeah. But I think overall that's probably more going to be the case, right? Yeah. So, and listen, there are some critics that can't stand Zack Snyder movies. There's no doubt about that. They just don't like them. I'm not saying there's a bias or an agenda. They just genuinely don't like his films. He's a very distinctive filmmaker, and he's a very contentious filmmaker. And when he works brilliantly in my view. And when he doesn't, he falls short.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but there are people that just don't like his films, and those critics, if they end up liking Justice League, will probably say because of Joss saved the day. So it'll be a mixed bag. But in terms of fandom, I think that's going to be more the case. It'll be Snyder if it's good. It'll be Joss if it's bad. And at the end of the day, look, Bill and I are really trying because Justin and Ryan are actually very excited for this movie, and especially Justin.
They are, and look, they're younger. They're younger than us.
It's not that. I don't.
It's not about. It is. It's their. They grew up. They were kids in the '90s, and especially Ryan, or the early 2000s, late '90s, early 2000s, when when you had the animated Batman the Animated Series, and then you had the Superman, and then you went into the Justice League, and they are two examples of fans who have been waiting for this their whole lives almost, and I get and I understand that and respect that. So.
Yeah, but here's the thing with me, for instance. Okay, so I really liked Man of Steel. I liked better as the years passed. Like, I came out of the theater the first time, and you and I were private messaging about it, and I was like, man, that last 45 minutes just wore me out. I'm not really sure how I feel about this movie. It had some beautiful moments, but I'm exhausted. That was a train wreck, right? And then I watched it again and again. I'm like, okay. None of that changed. It was a little bit too much, and we've talked about that. But, man, what a borderline masterpiece. It's so good. And as I started to really love Man of Steel, which didn't take me very long, just took me a few viewings to really kind of get past the stuff that was problematic towards the end. And I'm not talking about the Zod killing, by the way, because, quite frankly, I think that scene rules. But anyway, but leading up to BVS, I was really on a Man of Steel high. And when I saw the first little teaser trailer at that press screening for the trailer, I walked out of there and I wrote a review. You can search it on Batman on Film, and said, "Oh my God, I think we're going to get Snyder's best film. This looks beautiful." And the trailers that came after that film, there were the first 2 or 3 afterwards, really, really had me on a high. I said, "Man, this." I think is going to be great. I was as excited for BVS as anybody.
Oh yeah, go back and listen to the podcast leading up to BVS.
Anybody, absolutely.
It was a freaking party here, and we were,
all of us were
singing his praises, and we're excited as hell for it.
So let's just take that moment, right? Right before I stopped being excited, and I'll share that with everybody just for fun, but. I was on a serious high of Man of Steel, and everything I was seeing on BVS looked perfect. If BVS had delivered for me the way I thought it was going to based on those first 2 or 3 trailers, I would be like coming out of my skin for Justice League, regardless that I'm 42, that I didn't grow up with Justice League.
Yeah.
So it's not just age. It's the fact that, unfortunately, everything fell flat in terms of my excitement. And then once it did, and once I saw BVS, and then quite frankly, once I saw Suicide Squad, I was like, you know what? I'd rather them just quit trying to do this, quit trying to shoehorn all this in together. Take what works and start doing standalone films. I mean, even in the Suicide Squad, it was so well cast, and I love Will Smith. That was the surprise of the year for me. What's her name?
Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie, thanks. She's like the first. She has 2 first names. And it throws me off. Is that and she was just phenomenal. I like Leto's Joker personally. Yeah, that's an unpopular.
Well, there's another example with that film of it being altered in the wake of BVS. So I mean, it's no secret
right.
The studio hired a outside company that does trailers to provide cuts of the film, and they went with one they thought was more, fun or, whatever. And it was not David Ayer. It was not David Ayers' film, ultimately. So,
he's more or less said so. He's expressed that.
He'll flat out say it, man.
Yeah, he's not designed. But anyway, my point of going through all this exercise is this. So that's why we're not excited for Justice League. It's not because we want Batman to be by himself. Well, you know what? We do.
Yeah.
And the reason that we do, because we feel like based on the attempts otherwise, it just works better. The best scene in Suicide Squad, or one of the top 3 best scenes, is when Batman apprehends Deadshot. Yeah, and that scene's beautiful, and the way his little girl stands in front of him and says, "Dad, please," and just the look of Batman as he's looming over him. I mean, it's really great.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the scene cuts away, and it's like, there's aliens and a witch, and you're going, God, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. It may work in comics, and this could have worked, but it just doesn't work for me anymore.
Yeah.
And so yes, I want my Batman in cinema to not have running around with gods and ghosts and aliens. And if a filmmaker does it down the road and it works, I will love it if it works, but it's not working. And so look, I couldn't be happier about this because
I can't lie. I had the smart.
I tried to love BVS, and so I did. I really did.
I'm with you. I mean, this news makes me happy. I was being a smart ass, and I tweeted out a picture of a conga line, so with no text, just the conga line picture. That's fine by me. I loved Wonder Woman. There was, two bookends that ties in with, a little bit of BVS and, not so much Justice League, but, just, the email exchange between Bruce Wayne and Diana was, kind of like, you see, we're in a connected universe, but, you could take that out, those two scenes out, and that film still stands on its own and it's still awesome. You know what I mean? And I think that was the epiphany. You know what's ironic, though, Rick, about it, a lot of this is, look at Wonder Woman. Look at Wonder Woman. That's what we should be doing. But it was made under the old regime. They got lucky. Let's be honest. They got lucky with Wonder Woman, dude. They did, and I'm hoping that it was Patty Jenkins who had a big influence on that film of what went down, and hey, she negotiated hard to come back. So it wasn't until recently. So it's probably more of her saying, look, I want to do more of what I want to do. And
I think I agree with you to a large extent. They got quote unquote lucky, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, what you mean by that is, look, things weren't going well. These things, the interconnected stories just weren't working. Wonder Woman had the recipe to be a disaster, and then they quite frankly, in spite of itself, they pulled it off.
Thank goodness they made it a period piece, an origin film, because that almost by necessity excluded it from BVS and the DC film universe, and
which is why my money is on Matt Reeves' Batman being a prequel.
Yeah, so you weren't beat over that. Say if it was set after BVS or in the modern era, then you would. I'm not. I 100% believe you would have had cameos, and there've been literally they really beating us over the head with, look at us, we're a shared universe, see us sharing this universe, and here is here is frickin' the ambush bug out of I'm just pulling some obscure DC character out of my rear end here. So in that regard, yes, but that does not make it. It's a great film. I love that film. It's one of my favorite comic book films of all time. It is. It's in my top 5 easy.
Yeah, it's great. She's great in it. Everything about it's great. Now here's the thing. A lot of people are talking about that film. They're saying, what all they mean is that these films are going to be just like Wonder Woman. Yes, but also yes and no. I don't think that, and I could be wrong about this, but my guess is, and what we know is that it's not even going to be as much that's in Wonder Woman. I don't think she's going to be sitting down emailing Bruce Wayne in the sequel.
They've already. It's just going
to be her movie.
I don't know if it's true or not. I hope it is, but apparently it's another period piece set during the Cold War 1980s. I'd love it. I love that kind of stuff where they, movies are, retro and set in different eras and, and all that. So that would be great. Great. And again, it's going to be a Wonder Woman film, just like, hey, Aquaman is an Aquaman film. Don't expect, like in Brave and the Bold animated series, Batman to show up, at the Curry's house in Atlantis and invite Aquaman to go out on a night of crime fighting, which that's a great episode, by the way. But
right. Well, what about the rumors? You and I have never talked about this. What about these rumors that Wonder Woman's going to appear in Flashpoint? Now, that's obviously assuming that Flashpoint even gets made. But that's what I would say first. Yes, I know they announced Flashpoint, made a big deal of it at Comic-Con, but is it going to get made? I don't know. Look, a lot of those films they've announced aren't going to get made. I would love to see a Flashpoint film because I loved the Flashpoint Batman, the comic book. It was awesome. And if you don't know, it was in the Flashpoint universe, it was Bruce Wayne that was killed by Joe Chill, not Martha and Thomas Wayne. And spoiler alert,
Thomas Wayne goes on to become this like really Punisher-esque Batman, and Martha Wayne is the Joker in that universe. So it was also, I'd love to see some crazy ass takes on these characters in a Flashpoint film. And then you also, with Flashpoint, you could really overtly soft reboot it. I mean, they're soft rebooting it right now. It's subtle, it's quiet, but that's what it is. But with Flashpoint, you can do it kind of overtly, and maybe, like I said in another podcast, when the timeline is restored to the way it should be, things are a little different. Like maybe Bruce Wayne is a little bit younger, maybe a decade, 15 years younger than he was in BBS and what have you. So, we'll see. I mean, I would expect, yes, if they do Flashpoint, I would expect some of these characters to show up. But let's, here's what we're getting to, and we'll just kind of wrap this part of the show up. And there's just two things I want to talk about briefly afterwards. Is that no one has said it's not that, and technically there is a shared universe. They exist in the same world. It's not like Batman Begins and Superman Returns were completely, they were two different worlds, totally. So if you're expecting to see what you saw before with a setup, setting up team-up films, Justice League 2, and like you said, Rick, Batman showing up and flipping Wonder Woman sequel and Aquaman in a Man of Steel movie and Superman showing up in Matt Reeves' Batman film. That stuff's not happening. The Easter eggs, the winks and nods, the setups for future films and other films, that ain't happening no more. That ain't happening. It's a double negative, I know, but it's very Texan to say that. So, and that's just it. That's the bottom line. And that makes me happy because I love DC characters and I love DC movies, but I don't want them, I just don't need them all, hey, look at us, we're a shared universe. Yeah, oh my gosh, I'm watching, Superman or Man of Steel 2, and look, there's, there's Aquaman just hanging out, at SeaWorld.
There's Aquaman surfing on a parademon while Superman flying around. No.
Yeah.
That's not going to be the case.
Yeah.
So Jeff John's tweet yesterday. Okay, that's all he's saying, guys.
Exactly. Let's wrap it up with that. Yeah,
it's going to be a shared universe, of course, because again, Jason Momoa is playing Aquaman, Gal Gadot is playing Wonder Woman. Whether Affleck returns to Batman or not, the continuity will be there for Matt Reeves' Batman films to some degree.
Yeah,
hopefully, I'll scream from the top of my lungs if they reboot Superman before Cavill gets a.
I'll have sequel. An episode, dude. That's one of the things I'm banging the drum. They've got to.
I'll march the streets of Burbank. If they
have got to make. And I don't know if Cavill's under contract anymore after. If it was a 3-picture deal, he's probably done after Justice League. I hope he hasn't been put off by all this shit, and he's just saying, hey, listen, peace out.
People have a mess on their hands with him. I mean, he's already been killed. Clark Kent's already dead. Jimmy Olsen was assassinated. I mean, I can understand just them saying, man, F this. Let's just start over. What a mess. But they can do it, and the foundation is still there, and the cast is still there. Make it work. Just make it work is all I'm saying. So
they can be. You get the right director, which they're going to their director-driven approach. That Warner Brothers is a direct. That's in their DNA. They are a director studio, and they tried to do the Marvel thing. It didn't work. Look, I applaud them for everything they're doing right now. I do. Honestly, I applauded them for all the changes they made to Justice League to try to salvage that film. I've said that. I'm on the record. I hope the film turns out well. I don't think it makes $1 billion. I don't. I just don't think.
I don't see how. Bill, listen, and maybe it does, but
hey, look, what? I'll be happy if it does. I promise. Yeah, because it's good for DC.
Well, but here's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And I just don't see how it does because the 800-pound gorilla's in the room, dude. Like 4 weeks after that film comes out, basically Star Wars comes out.
Yeah.
And The Last Jedi is going to just suck the oxygen out of the room, and that's going to consume everything. So we'll see. It doesn't have a lot of room to have legs. They got to come out blasting, and they've got to stay. They need to have 3-4 strong weekends in a row. It can't drop 60% a second weekend.
You know, it has no goodwill going in, man. No. Really, it doesn't.
Well, Wonder Woman is goodwill.
Well, yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank goodness they have that. They have that, you know. But
yeah, they have that. But anyway, regardless, because this now gets into speculation. Let's just wait to see what happens. We hope it's as good as possible.
Yeah.
And we hope that all you guys that are excited about it, you know, I hope all of you love it. I really do. Now, I want to read something real fast, and then we'll call it a day. So I'm not going to say who this person is or who this group is, because that would be inappropriate, because this was a private message I received on Twitter. But I would like to read it, and it's a very popular handle that covers film and pop culture with 25,000 plus Twitter followers, and they have been critical on things that we have reported and said before. They're fair. They've always been fair. That's why I continue to follow them. I don't mind fair criticism. And sometimes you can't prove anything to anybody because you can't release sources.
Yeah.
And when you report on things also, let me just say this on the record, you also can report on things and say, this is what we understand is happening. And maybe it's not necessarily always 100% accurate. Mm-hmm. But if it's in the, you know, if it's very close, that's still worth just kind of mentioning, assuming it's not spoilers to a film or leaked set photos or script plots or anything. We're talking about just how the film is made stuff. Okay. But anyway, so this group sent me this message yesterday. It said, "Let me be the first to say that I have not always believed what Batman on Film has reported regarding the DCU. And maybe, in retrospect, it's because I did not want to hear. But after the recent screenings, news of cuts, etc., the latest John Nelson interview, and the entire stuff with Whedon, I truly believe you guys have been on the up and up about everything. You guys might not agree with the DCEU, but I have a lot more respect for you guys now because in regards to your reporting and the scoops, if you guys want to call it that. Being a DCEU fan, it's really hard at times, so it's not easy to accepting the stuff that you guys have reported. But when you are right, you are right." And then we exchanged pleasantries, and they've invited me on their podcast, and for that matter, they've invited you on the podcast, and I've accepted. And so again, I won't say who they are because that was a private message. I just want that if they're listening, thank you. This isn't about validation, about us being right. Okay. Quite frankly, there are a lot of things that we have been told, that we have talked about, that I would not even have a problem with that end up being wrong. I would be like, thank goodness that was an inaccurate report. Unfortunately, 98% of the stuff that we've been told for the last year or so has been on the nose. Okay. And so, yes, that does validate what we've been saying. And we appreciate that individual reaching out. That really made my day.
Well, let me say this, and there's one thing I want to bring up, and we'll get the hell out of here. In regards to all that, is that my whole purpose of being critical of DC on film and of Warner Brothers and the direction of these characters was, you know, honestly to get to the point we're at right now. And it's not being, you know, it's not people who used to bash me or bash Batman on film to come out and say, I apologize, you're right. It's that it makes me feel like some of that beating and banging of the drum over and over again over the last year and a half is helped out with the direction that they're going to go now. And that means that there will be a future for DC on film, because that was my concern. They were going to kill it. They were going to kill it, just like they almost killed it in 1997 with Batman and Robin. And I think they're on the right track. It may not be what they're doing, may not be what some people want. I understand that. They wanted more of the Zack Snyder stuff. They wanted the cameos and the Easter eggs and the winks and the nods. But like we said, they're not throwing out the baby with the bathwater. You're still going to have that. You're just not going to have it like it was once planned. And when you go see Wonder Woman 2, it's going to be Wonder Woman, not Wonder Woman setting up a flipping Metal Man movie or, you know, whatever. And I think it's the best of both worlds. I think everyone is getting something they want, and I think they're really on the right track. I know hiring these filmmakers and letting them, who have a really passion for these characters, letting them do their thing. They're getting back to that. And you can say, yes, Zach had that, but the problem was with that is Man of Steel wasn't 100% Zach's movie, and then you panic and you hijack the sequel, and then you try to get the Justice League so fast. And this is why they were in this position that they were in, and I'm more confident now with DC on film going forward than I have been in a long time. And I got to say that, this Vulture article, which I knew this stuff. I've been saying it. Rick, you heard me, man. I've been saying it for months now. This is what they're going to do. They're going to have more standalone films that aren't going to be necessarily connected in terms of referencing each other and so forth. And that's what's happening. And I'm happy about it.
I am too. And you know what? And if all these standalone films work,
yeah,
and there's just good vibe, look, maybe they will bring them back together and do a Justice League 2. That could very well happen. And if it happens correctly, I will support it. I will enjoy it. But right now, tap the brakes, establish these characters, let them live in their own, not universe, but in their own stories. And that's it. This is not going to be the Marvel platform that they originally had planned. That's all any of this means. And Jeff Johns' tweet yesterday does not contradict that at all. Okay? What he's saying is that we're not rebooting this. We're moving forward with these cast members and characters. Absolutely, they're connected. And he's right. They will be. But we've made our point. All right.
One thing I want to talk about, it'll take 2 minutes probably. Danny Elfman, who was the composer hired by Joss Whedon to rescore the Justice League after Junkie XL was removed, for lack of a better word. He was taken off the project and replaced by Whedon with Danny Elfman. So Elfman has said that he's using little bits of like the classic John Williams Superman theme in Justice League, and as well as his Batman '89 theme. What's your thought on that, Rick? I'm of two minds on that, to be honest.
Well, I would say this. First of all,
let me be clear that they're not flat out. It's not like the whole flipping theme, and it's just pieces
right.
in there. Yeah.
Elements of it. Look, it remains to be seen. He could make it work. It could also look shoehorned and a little trying to be too nostalgic. I saw it was interesting yesterday. I found something on YouTube, and I wish I would have flagged it. But it was, what if Man of Steel? And I love Man of Steel, so I'm not saying anything to the contrary. But it was like, what if Man of Steel had John Williams Superman score in it? And the really badass flying sequence in Man of Steel when he's learning to fly?
Yeah.
And he's crashing in the mountains and everything, and then he finally takes off. It's great. And they did that to the John Williams score. And I'm watching it, I was like, wow, it was weird. It was just weird. But what struck me about it was that, wow, I love this scene. I love that song. It's still like the song the theme that will always just immediately connect to Superman spiritually within myself. But it didn't work. You know what I'm saying? And I even think about Superman Returns. Like, they used that score. That whole film was a love letter to the Richard Donner original Superman. And it didn't, unfortunately, as much as there's things about that film I love as well, it just didn't work. In fact, a couple of scenes in Superman Returns I'm watching going, man, this is not deserving of that score.
Yeah.
And so that could be the case with this. In Justice League, if he tries to hit over the head with it too much, it could also be a very contrived, weird thing.
Well,
I don't think that's going to be the case.
It's not that Superman, and it's not that Batman. I am glad he is using a little bit of keeping Hans Zimmer's Wonder Woman theme, which I think is brilliant. I think it's up there with Batman '89 and John Williams Superman movie, Superman theme, but.
You don't touch.
Here's my thing: is that it seems like, and frankly, this is happening, Rick. Let's be honest. It's a little bit of pandering to to use those iconic themes, even just in a little bits of notes and whatever, to kind of like maybe influence people to like it a little bit more because of the fondness and the love that they have for that music associated with those characters. So, and you know, I do like the Man of Steel Superman theme, and you know that if it was in there, I mean, use it again. And look, just think this: would you want to have heard the the Danny Elfman Batman theme in any of the Dark Knight movies? You know,
no. And for the record, if I just in terms of a piece of a soundtrack, a theme song to a character, I think Danny Elfman's Batman is the best.
Yes.
It's the best. But it's also in context, like the scene at the end of Batman Begins that we all love.
Yeah.
When Gordon says, "I never thanked you," and he says, "You never, and you'll never have to," and he jumps off the rooftop, and it's just, and then the music kicks in, that Hans Zimmer.
I love that. It's
epic.
Yeah.
I think about that scene. What if he jumped off and also the Danny Elfman score kicked in? It wouldn't work. So it's all in context, right? So as long as they keep it in context, it could work. I don't know, Bill. I'm one of two minds about it. It could work. It could also be goofy.
Yeah.
The jury's out. I'm just going to wait to see it.
Okay. All right, then. All right. Got something to plug?
I just follow me on Twitter, Shewrick, SHEWRICK, and I have that little satellite Batman on Film Shoes Batman page. It's just fun. You know, it's not. Just if you like Batman and just want to chat with me and banter, come over there to that Facebook page. It's fun. And then Left Shoe Politics, we have a couple of recent podcasts up, so please check that out. Anywhere great podcasts are found, and that is Left Shoe Politics, SHEW. And then you can also follow us on Twitter there at Left Shoe Politic, and not politics because the handle's cut off. Hey, real quick on handles, Bill. What do you think about this 280 character thing, man? Do you like that transition that they're kind of slowly making it over at Twitter?
I had no idea, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the deal. So I don't know exactly how they're doing it, but right now they're just slowly. They're probably going through the verified list of Twitter handles, and yeah, it's slowly transitioning to 280 characters. Jimmy Kimmel, for instance, is now 280, and he tweeted the other day. It was pretty funny. He's like, "Oh my gosh, I don't even know what to do. As all you guys are trying to write in abbreviations just to get you 140 characters. Look at me go. I can just talk. You know, it's really funny."
So they're doubling the characters then, essentially.
They're doubling the characters, and like there's a certain amount of Twitter handles that already are using them. And not to get a political thing in here, but I'm like, will you please not give one to our president, please? We don't need him to have one. Okay, that's just me. That opinion does not reflect Batman on film. That's just me.
Well, whether it does or not, I'm not saying. So anyway.
Yeah, but hey, listen. Even if you support that president, you got to admit you got to get that guy off Twitter. So, but there's a lot of people that are transitioning already. But yeah, you and I by this time next year we'll have 280 characters, probably a lot sooner.
Well, it's either probably people either welcoming that news about me and you, or in terror and horror of the thought of it. So, anyway, look, we had a good show. We didn't get in. Hey, look, we didn't even fight or get into a big ass argument or anything. So, and
look at that.
Yeah, see, we can get along. All right, guys. Announcer Rachel will take us out. Make sure you listen to the other podcast that dropped this weekend as well. On the Rick is also part of for Batman Returns. And if you need details on our watch parties in Austin, Chicago, New York / New Jersey, LA /Riverside, and Durham, Raleigh, North Carolina, go to BOF Proper. There's all the information right there for you, where it's at, what theater. And then once screenings start being available to buy, we'll tell you which one we're going to so you can get your ticket. So with that, announcer Rachel takes us out. We'll catch you next time.
Hey now, you've been listening to the Batman on Film podcast, a proud member and the sponsor of the Batman Podcast Network, BatmanPodcastNetwork.com. You can listen to the BOF podcast on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, TuneIn, and wherever good podcasts like this one can be found. Want to advertise on the BOF podcast? go to advertisecast.com/the Batman on Film Con podcast. Follow Jet on Twitter at Batman on Film and on BOF's Facebook fan page at facebook.com/jet.batmanonfilm. Email Jet via jet@batman-on-film.com. Follow Rick on Twitter at ShewRick and on Facebook at facebook.com/BOF-Shew. For Jet, Rick, Justin, and Ryan, I'm announcer Rachel. Thanks for listening.